What would the world look like if people felt like they mattered? Welcome to the Lead with Love podcast, exploring what it means to lead with love in business and life. I'm your host, Jada Selner, and in this show, I'll share meaningful conversations to help you, the creative, the entrepreneur, the world changer, reach more people, go after your dreams, and serve your community with love. I appreciate you joining me. Now let's get cozy and start today's episode. If you're looking to lead with more flow, love, and sustainable energy to do work that really matters to you and the world, this episode is for you. You're listening to episode 137 of the Lead with Love podcast, and in today's conversation, I get cozy with Briana Borten. And during our conversation, Briana said she would ask her daughter after we talked how her daughter describes what she does for work. And so I thought I would tell you how she tells other people what her mom does to give you a little bit of context. She said she has spas, writes books, and helps people get their life on track. And I couldn't agree more. Briana is a good friend of mine, and she is one of the most productive, creative entrepreneurs that I know, that once she has a vision, sets the mission, she makes ish happen. Now, Briana Borten is a wellness entrepreneur and peace engineer who inspires people to live extraordinary, healthy lives and create what they want. And at age 23, Briana opened the Dragontree Holistic Day Spa in Portland, Oregon, which has now expanded to 2 additional spa locations with an herbal apothecary product line. Briana is also the creator of the Rituals for Living Dreambook, which is a tool to help people achieve their life dreams. She's also the founder of a nonprofit to empower women to create lives they are inspired by. And her favorite passion project right now is leading transformational group energy programs with Love Rising. So some things that we talk about in today's episode are ego work versus purpose work, leading teams, and hitting goals with more flow and rituals. And you can find the full show notes and even a picture of her alpacas from this episode over at jadaselner.com/137. And if you are looking to find one of the fastest, most authentic, nurturing ways to grow your community, I highly recommend that you go over to buildyourchallenge.com, where you can get my free roadmap, and I will share the step-by-step process of how I was able to build a community with love with one of the companies that I co-founded, Simple Green Smoothies, where we grew our community to over 355,000 email subscribers, over 400,000 followers on Instagram, and many, many more. So if you're wanting to grow your community in a fun and simple way that creates brand loyalty and lifelong customers, head over to buildyourchallenge.com. And now I am so excited to get cozy with Briana Borten. Hi, Briana.
Hello.
Oh, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. I feel like it's going to feel just like our catch-up conversations that we have sporadically.
And I'm so excited about it.
I know how we first met in San Francisco at Sarah Jenks' house, and I remember just falling like so in love with you. We sat next to each other at dinner, and we were just like talking. We're like, we're going to be best friends forever. And then I think we sort of made like our daughters, they're similar age, and we're like, they'll be best friends too. I just remember Sarah bringing us together, and just how I just love your vibrant energy and also your calming soul at the same time. Like, you are just like a full, whole, expansive woman that I'm excited for people to actually get to know all the things that you create and put out into the world.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. So I know for us, we talk about this all the time. And I know that you have something called the Love Rising Collective. So I think that this question that I'm leading with will be very aligned with the work that you do in the world. And that question is, what does leading with love mean to you? And how do you put love into practice in your business? And I would say even in your businesses, because you are a serial entrepreneur who has built many different business ventures in different ways, but they're all integrated and connected with each other.
Yeah. What does leading with love mean to me? I just love this question because I feel like it, I believe that leading with love is probably the thing that will heal the whole world. So I think it's such a beautiful question for us to all be asking ourselves individually, and then to be in that conversation together feels so juicy. When I think about leading with love, one of the things that I when you ask that question, my whole body starts to feel very specifically it means an embodiment. There's actually a feeling like I'm really embodying love and really embodying wisdom and experience and being really authentic and using that, coming from that place in the way that I am in the world, whether that's I'm leading my team or a group or even just my family or friends, that it doesn't turn on and off for me. It's not well, now you're the leader and now you are not. So just through the love, it's just all the time being in that place of holding on to the truth of what you believe and letting it come through you into your actions. And I think that really means becoming kind of a clear channel for love, because I think a lot of us have these ideas about how we want to be or what we believe the way the universe works, but then the way that we act is really, or speak even, can be very out of alignment with that with our beliefs and with our really deep internal truth. And so I think that leading with love is kind of connecting those two things, connecting our deep internal truth about, what we believe about our spirits or, our inner wisdom or whatever we want to call it, and allowing that to really come through us into our actions and into our voices and being able to lead with love in that way. So I guess that's what leading with love means to me.
I'm curious if there's a specific practice that you, even something tangible that you do, maybe even within your teams that you lead, of expressing love in that way?
Yeah. It's actually an interesting thing because I feel this has even shifted for me over the last maybe year and a half, because I learned this thing that they do at Waldorf schools where the teachers, they believe that you can't teach a student that you don't love, that you have to, love is a requirement in order to be a good teacher and be able to have that relationship with a child. And so the teachers are encouraged to love all their students and to pray about all their students. And I was so moved by that. I was yes, of course. How could you ever be a wonderful teacher to somebody that you didn't love? And so I really took that to heart. And I feel I've always loved my team, but I've really started to bring them in to my meditation practice, into my prayers, into deeper inside. So it's not just when they're having a hard time, I'm thinking about them, but I consider their lives all the time. I wonder, just thinking I hope, maybe it's I know it's Robert's day off and I'll be thinking about him before my meditation, just praying that he has a really beautiful day off and that he gets regenerated and feels good when he comes back to work. And not because I need him to, but because I love him and I want that for him. And this shift for me has actually, it's changed things that are kind of more tactical, the way that I talk, the way that we do meetings. And it isn't I was I'm going to change those things. It just naturally changed because the way I was approaching my team and also our clients changed in that way of just being like, yes, of course, if I'm going to have any sort of leadership position with you, I must love you.
I love that so much. And I just love how you pulled that wisdom from Waldorf education, because I'm like, it's fascinating how we can separate those two things. And I do believe, we try to compartmentalize, like, okay, love, like we believe in love. That's what we stand for. And then we don't bring it into the workplace, into our businesses. And we spend most of our waking hours, contributing and doing work in the world to make a living, to make a difference. And I think that's such a powerful lens for us all to really consider of, do I love the people on my team? Do I truly love, my customers, my clients, the community that I serve? Because I know there can be this energy where people can feel annoyed or like, just like frustrated and it's like, and that's normal, right? Like we have those with people that we love in our personal lives as well. But if we're not coming from that foundation of really caring about the people that are in our worlds, then the way that we show up is so different. The way that we communicate is so different. So I love how it's like you're bringing them into your awareness and just sending them loves, and like your intention is so clear of what you want for them. And I don't know, I think it's just such a beautiful way to show up in the world.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's made a huge difference in the way I feel every day too, because I agree, like it can get so frustrating, right? Like it's not like no one on my team is ever frustrating to me, or any of my clients aren't ever frustrating to me. Like people do frustrating things, like so do I, I'm sure, out in the world. People are probably annoyed with me as well. But it's like, can we love somebody even though they're frustrating us in the moment? And I actually think that a lot of times that's why we need to love them. I think that in Waldorf, that's probably a big reason why too, because kids can be real annoying, right? And so if you are like a teacher and you're like teaching these children and then they're annoying, and you start to believe that they are the annoying behavior rather than being the amazing light being that they are, then you start to interact with them differently. And we see this in schools all the time, right? People start categorizing kids, like good kids, bad kids. And then those bad kids, like it doesn't matter. Like once they've gotten to that category, teachers start treating them that way. And we do this all the time with humans. We do this in work. We do this with our clients. Oh, that's the annoying client. And we categorize them that way. And then we don't allow them to evolve in our presence, because we've decided to put them in a box rather than allow their behavior to be their behavior and really like still love the being that's underneath the behavior.
Oh, I love that. What would you say for someone if they did if they, they're kind of nodding their head right now and like, yes, I've totally put a client or a customer into the annoying box, because I think it's so fascinating that you share that if you put them in that box that they can't evolve. And I'm just curious, what would you say to someone if they have put a client in the annoying box? What would you tell them to do to kind of lift them out of the box so that they can truly evolve?
Yeah, I think first just like acknowledging in yourself that you've done that to somebody else, and this is like with clients, with partners, with family members that we decide that this is how they are. First, just like acknowledging it, the awareness can make a big, big difference. So then once you have the awareness and you're like, oh yeah, I've put you in this box, the next thing is to then take responsibility for that and see if you need to have a conversation that would kind of clear the air so that there could be like a little lifting. I think a lot of times we avoid hard conversations, especially with clients. Well, I was going to say especially with clients, but really like especially with anyone. We don't love having uncomfortable conversations, but a lot of times if we are willing to be really vulnerable and just say, hey, like, it may be somebody's writing you too many emails, maybe even just a conversation that's like really heart-centered, that's just like really clear, like, oh, I am having a hard time managing all of the communications from you, and I don't know that I can really serve you that well if I'm receiving so much from you, so many communications. So let's figure out a way that you can have your needs met and I can get my needs met in this relationship. So rather than making it like a top-down decision, you get to be in relationship with people and be vulnerable. I mean, I think we, in this culture especially, tend to shy away from like just vulnerable conversations when we feel like we should be in a position of power with somebody. Like, I'm the one that should know, so I should be the one making the call. It's like, well, why can't you just have a conversation and just say, like, this is a frustrating aspect of our relationship for me. How can we move forward so that that's not happening anymore? And I can really open up, and so can you, in each other's presence. And it makes such a huge difference to be willing to have those conversations, and then also to start seeing the light. I mean, this is a practice that I have pretty much every day with the humans in my life. Like, how can I actually be looking for I call it the light, you could call it the love in somebody else, whatever you would want to call it, the delight maybe even in them. And so rather than, you know, like if you're looking through the lens of annoying, you're going to see annoying. Like, the person's going to be annoying to you all the time. But if you look through the lens of light or the lens of delight, you'll start to see more delight. And you can then start to amplify that in somebody, because it really shifts the relationship when you are looking for something different. And when you look for that in them and then you hold that for them, often their behaviors and the way that they're speaking and the way that they're doing things actually can shift more to what you're seeing in them, because like then they get the opportunity to evolve in your presence, which I feel like is such a beautiful gift to bring into the world all the time.
Oh, I love that. So I know you have 2 daughters who are just so adorable. And I'm curious how you describe what you do for work to your daughters.
Oh, that's a good question. Well, my youngest daughter is 3, and she never asks or like seems to care at all what I'm doing for work. Like, she like doesn't seem to have a lot of awareness that I actually do work. I'm sure she has some sense of it, but my 10-year-old, she definitely is like very aware of what I do, and she often like gives me ideas for things too and helps me be a better person all the time. And I think that, like, you know, my work has evolved since she's had enough awareness to really understand what I do. And so, you know, it kind of went from like, oh, we run the spa, to like, oh, I like do energy work with people on the phone, and like we run these retreats and we train people, and she's just like fascinated with all of it. And she's interested in like energy work, and so she's often asks me like how I do it and what do I do, and we talk about that a lot. So probably similar to the fact that I'm like not really great at explaining what I do to anyone, I'm similarly, luckily they kind of just know what I do, and it's like so multifaceted that, you know, I know that they're both aware that like we have a place. It's easy when it's a place, right? Like the spa, they're like, oh yes, this is Mama's, so that makes sense because it's like a thing. Yeah. Some of the other work, I think that they're a little like, but you know, they'll come and like sit, like especially my little one will come like sit on my lap, and we'll like, when I'm in circle with women, and, you know, be there and be quiet and present. And then when she can't do that anymore, she leaves. And yeah, I feel like it's kind of like osmosising into them rather than like really being something that I'm like, this is what I do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally. And I'm always just curious because every now and then I ask Zoe, my daughter, how does she describe what I do to her friends? So it's always just really fascinating for me to hear from like a child's perspective. And we're doing so much in the world, and we're being, you know, so present and contributing, you know, to a large group of people globally. I'm always just fascinated by also like, what's the kid's perspective of what it is that you do. So Zoe, for me, it's like, oh, you're an entrepreneur and an author. Obviously I do so much more than that, but it's like, she'll have different iterations of what it is that I do. And so I'm always just curious about that.
Oh my gosh, I'm definitely asking my daughter when she gets home from
Yeah.
school.
Like, what do you say to your
I'm going to ask both
friends?
of them separately. Yeah. It's so funny because, you know, at my age now, even when people are like, well, what does your dad do? My dad's a musician, but he also like used to do like a bunch of other things, but like help teach people about like racism and sexism and things in the workplace mostly. And growing up, I always just said, my dad's a musician and he teaches people to be nice.
I love it.
I'm still like, I pretty much say that still because I'm like, yeah, pretty much this guy's what he does.
Yes, it's so good. I mean, I feel like they can create our elevator pitches if we were to have one. It's like clear and concise. And then you ask like, oh, well, how does he do that?
I know, totally. I'm going to tell my dad that. I'm like, this is so, in case anyone ever asks you what you do, this is what you should say.
Please text me what your daughter's answers are. I'm so curious how they would describe it.
I definitely will.
Yeah. And I know you're a mama, a wife, an entrepreneur. You also speak. You own several spas. You're an author, an energy healer. And I would really love to just rewind and find out what was the first dollar you made as an entrepreneur?
The first dollar I ever made as an entrepreneur was when I had my first private massage practice. I was 21 years old, and I actually remember my very first client. Man, he was creepy. Actually, unfortunately, like not the greatest experience, but also like kind of a great story now. So I'm like, I don't mind. But yes, I do remember, and I was like, somebody just paid me so much money for a massage. It was so great.
That's awesome. So what was the actual story? I'm curious.
Well, here's this, so I worked at this like little tiny acupuncture clinic. So I rented a room from an acupuncturist there. And it was like, it's in a neighborhood that has now really evolved in Portland. But at the time it was like slightly seedy, not like super seedy, but like seedy enough. And my very first client was like an evening client. So it was like at 6 o'clock. It wasn't like 10, but it was like dark because it was winter. And so it was like 6 o'clock and he came in and there was nobody else at the clinic but me and this guy, which by the way, just like a horrible idea, like really wasn't thinking that through. And I like did all my like massage stuff, had the room all made. I was like so proud of myself. I remember like heating up my hands in the sink before I went into my hands would be warm. I was like so excited. And so I massaged this guy and he was just really wanting something I wasn't going to be providing that day. And he kept being like, he wanted a stomach massage, which is like not that weird actually. I think that giving like stomach massages is a great thing and can like help with your digestion a lot. But that's not what he wanted. He was like, I was like massaging his stomach. He's like, a little lower. And then when I was massaging the sides, he's like, a little higher. And I was like, this is not going to work. Yeah, it was super creepy. But, you know, I don't know if it's obvious or not, but I did not do that. And, you know, he paid me and left. And I was like, somebody just paid me. I feel thrilled about it, actually.
Yeah. So what I'm curious about, like when you have that first one, like proud moment, but also it didn't deter you to continue on, right? Like you were still committed of like, this is my work. This is what I want to be doing, which I think so often we think becoming an entrepreneur, you're going to have like this magical experience. And I think there's some resiliency that you had in there of like, okay. And also having boundaries. And so something that I've learned is when we have clients that are not the most ideal, it gives us so much feedback and clarity of like who we're for and who we're not for and what I'm available and what I'm not available for. So it's like sometimes we're like bummed that we have a not so great client, but I think it's also a gift in just getting really clear on our preferences and what works for us.
Totally. And I mean, I was like pretty happy about that whole, I was like, that was creepy, but I was like, somebody just paid me to give them a massage. And also I learned like, I'm not going to see male clients without another person here. because I felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so it was like a very quick lesson that like some people might have had to wait for so long to learn. And instead I got to learn it the very first time. And you might be surprised that I actually continued to see him as a client and like just always made sure somebody else was there. But he paid me like way more than I even asked him to. So I was like, whatever. And I so needed the money. And I was like, whatever. And then never had he became less and less creepy over time, which was great. And then eventually he stopped coming to me because I'm sure that I was just like not satisfying his desires, but that's okay.
And what gave you the confidence to kind of go out on your own, rent a room at 21 years old?
I think that like actually I have always been a little like I feel like I've been a little fearless a lot in my life, and that a lot of that started like I broke my neck when I was 18, and at that point it was like so clear to me that like we're not guaranteed anything. Like you're not guaranteed to be 30 when you open your business. You're not guaranteed to like live. So I just knew that like at 18, I was like, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee for tomorrow ever. And so even though I like to plan, as you know, like I love dreaming and planning about my life, I also was like really in it for the moment. And so I was like, I want to be a massage therapist. This is what they do. I'm just going to like go forward and do it, because they're like waiting didn't seem like an option. And I feel like there's also part of me that was just really naive, which is sometimes really great. I kind of feel like the older we get, sometimes the harder it is to do things because we're less naive. We're like, oh, all the shit that could happen is unbelievable.
Yes, it's so true.
Yeah. And I mean, I opened my first spa when I was 23 and I was like super naive. It was great. It was exactly how it needed to be.
Yeah. So, what for you, opening a spa when you were 23, even you leaned into it, you made it happen, but was there any voices or hesitation inside your head, even though you still moved forward and took action?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I was surrounded by people that doubted me, actually, like not as much my family, but a lot of my friends actually at the time were not, I mean, they were like kind of supportive, like they helped me like break walls in the building and things, but they were not like, they all thought I was a little crazy. And so their doubt made me feel doubtful actually. And then it was just really hard. I mean, it was just so hard. I remember like 2 days before we were supposed to open, I was painting the cement floor in the front of the spa and like bawling. I was like bawling. I was like, this is so hard. Like I worked every day for like probably 16 hours a day trying to get it open. And that didn't stop once it was open. But I was just like, I started with a business partner who we really did not jive well. And so there was like a lot of conflict, and I didn't ever feel like I didn't want to do the thing. I was never like, I don't want to open a spa, but I was like, I also just kind of want to die right now because this is so hard. And luckily, I mean, my husband, we weren't married at the time, but he was there through, I mean, I remember him just being like, honey, do you want to stop painting for a second so we can just talk about this? And I was like, no, I can't stop painting. I was like, wouldn't even stop painting because I was like, if I stop painting while I'm bawling, then I'm not going to get this done. It has to get done. So I bawled my eyes out and painted the floor.
Oh my gosh. What were some of the things that the doubting friends were saying?
I mean, the place that we turned into, the first spa that we had, which still exists in Portland, was like this big, empty, gray warehouse. It was like, there was nothing in it. And so I walked them in. I'm like, look at this beautiful place. They were all like, I'm confused. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? So there was definitely a lot of like, oh, how this is never going to happen. Like you can't afford, you have no money. You have like, only you and your business partner to do the work because you can't afford to pay anyone. There's like this big empty gray space and you want to turn it into a spa. Like they were just like, it just didn't seem possible to them. And I don't think that they were like trying to ruin my life and break my dreams down at all. I think that they were trying to protect me, which I think is what happens a lot with people, right? They're not trying to like hurt you or like break your dreams. They actually a lot of times want to protect you from like pain, because that's what we've been like taught to do in our culture. So, you know, I think that they had good intentions actually, but it was just like, you don't do this. Actually, there's a lot of it. Like you're going to get hugely in debt. You're not going to have any time to hang out with us. You're not going to, you know, any of the things. And they were right. Like I didn't have any time to hang out with them. And I never got to go do like the Burning Man thing in my early 20s when all my friends were, because I had to work. And so they were kind of right. It definitely changed my like early 20s from being like, I think a lot of the way people think about their early 20s as being like that super like kind of free and exploratory time. I was working and I was working hard. So yeah, I mean, it's not like they were totally incorrect, but it was just not what their path and my path were just different.
Yeah. You know what I love is that I think one of your superpowers is just this possibility thinking that you can see something before anyone else can see it, and how committed to that vision you were when people, all they saw was like gray walls and an empty room, and you just saw so much possibility and potential and were committed to making that vision a reality, which I think is really cool. And I know that I know you said you love dreaming and planning, and you actually have a dreaming and planning journal book that people can work through, which I think is really fascinating. And I'll definitely link to it in the show notes, because I think the way how big you see, and then how practical and tactical that you get about it, you know, like you make things happen, you produce things very, very quickly. Like you have, you know, the Dragontree Spa, but you also have an apothecary, published books, journals, and you also created a personal brand, Briana Borten, in addition to the Dragontree. And so I'm curious what insight you've gained just from integrating a personal brand as an extension or in addition to the physical space that you created.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. It's been such an evolution. There was actually a time where I was like, I'm going to start my personal brand after I had built kind of like the Dragontree brand. And it was interesting. It just like wasn't integrated into what I was already doing. And it didn't really work for me. I was like, it felt too hard actually. And it didn't feel quite right for me. And so then I kind of like let it go for quite a while. And then when it reemerged, the desire, it didn't emerge quite as much as like a desire to create a personal brand as it did a desire to do specific work that would have been real weird to not have my name attached to. Like energy work by the Dragontree would have been like weird. So like there's a person here, right? And so I think it's an interesting thing that it actually was just a really natural evolution when it was right. Yeah. Not like the first time, if I'm being honest, it was like a very much like an egoic pursuit, because like most of my friends had like businesses with their names, and I was like, oh, that seems so cool and you're so popular, and I was like, I want to be popular too. And so it was like definitely an egoic pursuit the first time, and it didn't work because it wasn't aligned for me. And I was like, that just doesn't actually work, because the one that's in control here is my ego. And when it changed and the desire was really like a spirit-led desire, like a real heart-centered desire, everything shifted. And it just like, it aligned with what I already did. It like made sense to like weave with the Dragontree. They're not the same. They definitely like weave in and out of each other. And the Dragontree also evolved at the same time. You know, we also Peter and I were creating more books around personal development and just like the dreaming and planning and then like emotional support. And then we wrote a book about like very specifically spiritual evolution. And then we created a coaching course for people. And so it's just like when it was right and when it was moved by the desire to serve, things just all kind of came together in a different way and evolved both things in a really beautifully integrated way.
Oh my goodness. I love you so much, Briana. One, just like we've been in peer-led masterminds together for several years now. And I remember seeing all the transformations, and I just appreciate your honesty and transparency around, just the ego being driven to like, I've got to have a personal brand, and how it didn't take off until it was from a place of service. And I actually just recorded a podcast around that of like serve first, then scale. And so often people try to scale and they're not thinking about the service. And even with a personal brand, like I just want to be a personal brand versus like, I want to serve and help people and let me build a body of work around that. And that could be a personal brand or it could be a company name. But I just love your honesty of the intention the first time and then the intention the second time, and how both pieces of your work with the Dragontree, with your personal brand, evolved and expanded when you came from a more aligned and service-led intention.
Yeah, I think that it makes the biggest difference in the world.
Yeah.
And it has for me at least.
And I'm curious from a timeline perspective of the kind of the year that you launched the Dragontree Spa, and then the year that you did your first attempt at the personal brand, and then the year that you made the intentional shift to be more service-led. Because I think it's helpful for people to know that things don't just like happen overnight or so quickly, that things evolve, shift, and change over time.
Yeah, so I opened the Dragontree in the first spa in 2003, and then there's been, then we opened a cafe and then closed it and opened a spa in the Dragontree, another Dragontree spot in the Portland airport. Then we launched our apothecary. Then I'm just trying to give a timeline. Apothecary we opened in like 2011. Is that true? Yeah, I think. 2011. And then we moved to Boulder and we opened another spa in Boulder in 2012. And in 2011, 2012, that's the first time I launched my personal brand, like that time. And then I kind of like let it fizzle because I was like, not actually like, I guess it was just like, I absolutely didn't have the bandwidth either to do the work, but it was really like, I didn't have energy for it either because like my ego can only sustain so much apparently. And then the Dragontree really Peter and I started creating the Dragontree as like having a huge personal development aspect to it. When was that? I guess that would have been 2013, 14, around that time. And so that's when that part of the Dragontree started to build. And then I kind of resurrected having like Briana Borten as like a brand at all in 2016.
Yeah. So it's like
not that long ago.
Yeah. But it's like a 5-year between the first iteration and then the second. And I know you mentioned like when it's ego-led, like you only have so much bandwidth. Can you tell me what's on the other side of that when it's not ego-led, and what does your bandwidth look like from that place? Yeah,
I have like a very specific like thing that flows through me that wants to be out in the world. And it's like when I try to veer away from that, like it's just not good. And when I allow it to come through, it's self-sustaining. So it doesn't mean that I don't do the work. I do the work, but it's like actually sustainable for me. And I have a lot of energy behind it. And it's not like it's not cheerleader energy, which I have nothing, there's nothing wrong with cheerleader energy. It's just, it's not that sustainable over like the long haul of a business. There are times where you can like use cheerleading energy to get through something, but it's more like sustained energy that's strong. It's kind of like, I'm kind of thinking of like I think of like an elder in like a tribe, that it has like energy to serve the tribe always, because it comes from, it's like almost given to them so that they can be there. You know, like the medicine man or the medicine woman in a tribe is like they're sustained by the gift in a way. And that feels very similar to me when I allow what is, and it, not that it doesn't like morph and shift and change. I mean, it does. I can feel the differences. Probably on the outside, people are like, don't see the differences. All looks kind of blue to me. But, you know, it's like the thing can shift and change, and like what you're doing can look different. But it's almost like when I'm on purpose, when I'm like really connected to why I'm here, I have a lot of sustained energy for the work that I'm doing. When the work is coming from a different place, like that ego place, it's almost like I'm doing all the heavy lifting myself to try to make it happen. And that is just, that just doesn't work for me. I'm too tired.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that visual, because I can see it and I can feel it. And I know you have a book, Rituals for Transformation, and I'm curious what personal rituals you have to help you stay connected to being that open channel for your work. Maybe you can describe your morning routine, or I know you have a lot of rituals as you wind down in the late night evenings when we're all like asleep. Every like mastermind we do, we've been to like Tulum and to Ojai together. And I'm like, I'm going night-night at 9 p.m. And you're like, I'm just getting started. So I'm curious what those rituals that you have for yourself, and also just the process that you took to create those and stay consistent. Because I know for me, I'll create this like epic morning routine ritual, and then I like do it for 30 days and then I like fall off, and like then I have to like ramp myself back into it. So first, just sharing what your personal rituals are, and then the process that you've done to allow it to stay consistent for you.
Yeah. I'm happy to. So my morning routine, I'm not going to like tell everyone that like I wake up at 5 and do yoga and meditation every morning, because I feel like, first of all, I feel like everyone says that, and I feel like I've never actually seen anyone do that I know. So I'm like, I kind of feel like everyone's lying. I'm sure somebody's not lying, but I don't do that. I actually wake up in the morning to my children, because I like to sleep until they wake up. So then my morning routine really consists of like connecting with my children. I really believe that like every time I see my children for the first time and the last time, like whether it's in the morning or at night or when they come home or when they leave, that like that is like such precious time to like really connect in. So in the morning, I usually take the time to cuddle and talk and laugh with my girls. And it doesn't last forever, because we all wake up late and we have to get the kids to school. So it's not like don't get like the picture that we're like lying in bed for hours and like this like epically dreamy state. Like it's probably like 5 minutes. We're like connecting in. And then I get the girls ready, and Peter makes breakfast, and we take the girls to school together on school days. And then Peter and I will drive to this little lake that we like to walk around, and we go on a little walk around the lake and kind of just chat about, we are in business together, so we chat about business quite a bit at the time. And then we'll chat about, if I'm being honest, actually, most of the time we talk about like random spiritual philosophies, and then sometimes we talk about business. And then we come home, and then I meditate. I meditate every morning, and then I usually exercise, and then I start work. And then I do my work day. Then like my kids come home, we connect, and we have a lot of family time. And then we have a ritual around dinner. We do a lot of chanting. It's like something that means a lot to Peter and I, and now it means a lot to our girls. So we do our family chants and kind of connect in around like what we've been grateful for during the day, at dinner time. put our kids to bed. And then at night I do meditation again and journaling, and then more talking with Peter. There's always lots of talking. Peter and I talk a lot, apparently. And so I feel like for me, like getting a routine, like as you can tell, my routine, my background is in Ayurvedic medicine, so I know how morning routines can get. They can be like, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and then pretty soon it's like noon, and you like just got done with like your last sunny salutation, and you're like all oily from your self massage, and you're feeling amazing, but you haven't gotten shit done. I'm like, totally. If you have space and time in your life to do that, there's nothing wrong with it. But I also, for me, it doesn't work with my lifestyle. For most people, it doesn't, and so I think that finding like one thing that gets you really grounded and like feeling into your day, whether that's like a journaling practice or, you know, something along those lines. And then, I mean, I am probably one of the biggest proponents of meditation. I just am like, I feel like everyone should be meditating. If you're not meditating, then like, don't even feel like you have to do anything else. Like, don't do the self-massage or the journaling or anything else. Just meditate. And that would be a great start. When I committed to meditation, well, first I committed to meditating every day, and then I committed to meditating twice a day, and then I committed to meditating a certain amount every day. I just like made an agreement with myself. And it wasn't like for like, not for like the week or even the month, but it was like for the year. Like my agreement for myself this year was that I would meditate 365 hours in this year. And so that doesn't mean, that gives me flexibility. So if there's like a day that I like, for some reason can only meditate a half an hour, then I just find another day that I can meditate an hour and a half. And so it gives me some flexibility while also giving me like a pretty challenging goal that has actually really changed my life. So it's not about hitting the goal for me. It's about what the goal does for me. And that goal has like completely shifted things for me.
I love that. And I love, you know, because I have a pretty full morning routine. It's like everything or nothing. And I love that commitment to just finding one small piece of that epic morning routine or wind down routine that you have to just start with that one agreement with yourself. Is there a tool that you used to track the time, the hours that you're collectively building over the 365 days?
Yeah, I use Insight Timer for meditation.
I use that one too. I love it. The little bell, like the ding.
Yeah. Tracks everything for you. It's so nice. So yeah, I use that. And, you know, sometimes my morning routine is more and sometimes it's less too. Like sometimes the universe is just like a little bit more open than others for certain things. And I'm like, oh, today we need to, not need to, but I want to like actually do like a whole ceremony this morning. And Peter will be like, but I have stuff to do. I'm like, yeah, but this is more important. It's like the time is now. And he'll be like, okay, because he's super cool. So yeah, I think that if adding and subtracting from your morning routine and letting that be like the flowy thing, but keeping that one thing that you've committed to like really steady. I think that helps us not kind of, not do that like I'm on and then I'm totally off.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned, that you work with Peter, your husband, in the business. Can you tell me what it's like to have two creative healers in the house going after their callings and what's been fun and challenging about that?
Yeah. It's interesting because we're so different and also so similar. Like we see eye to eye on all the important things. And also we are I'm such a planner and I really love to do that. And he is he will plan because he sees that it's valuable to him. He's not like, I can't wait to do that where I am. So we definitely have different strengths. And in the business, we really utilize our different strengths and we kind of know what we're in charge of. But on the other hand, we do have a lot of overlap. And, even going into this training that we're about to do this weekend together, there's times where what we believe is the most healing route for people is something that we disagree about. And that's really hard because it's not like there's not a simple resolution to it. It's not like, oh, well, we'll just look that up on the internet and something will tell us what the most deeply healing route is for people to get there through like somatic healing. Like there isn't that answer out there. And so we both have to be in deep inquiry in ourselves and in our conversation. And it's hard not to get a little triggered, like to be like, oh, like, because it's a deeply personal experience too. So then if the other person is like, I don't know of course we're so respectful in the conversation. So it's not like you're wrong, Apple. Or like, I'm not sure that is it. Can we go deeper? And when you feel like you've already reached the deepest depths you could, for somebody to be like, let's go deeper, for me, it can feel triggering. And so then I get to be with that experience and see how we can actually use that in the work of figuring it out together. So it can be hard for sure. I think that we both have a real commitment to always telling the truth that we know in our work to our clients, to our students. And if we are always seeking the truest truth, it's always going to be a little hard and a little uncomfortable. And it's a commitment that we both made though. So it's like, we're willing to be in it together and work through it. So, and the best parts of it, like we get to like explore like the deepest realms of like human consciousness together, which I love.
Yes.
So much fun.
And you guys are also homesteading and raising alpacas.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome. I feel like you need to like send me a picture and I want to like post it on the show notes.
Oh my gosh, I will.
I'm so inspired.
Our alpacas are so sweet. You'll have to come very soon and meet them.
We need a slumber party.
It's true.
So before we wrap up, I would love for you to sharing about your newest heart project, and people, like, you have to go to brianaborten.com as well as the Dragontree. Like, there's just so much goodness. Like, I know that you are just bringing peace, you're bringing possibility, you're bringing purpose into just the consciousness of the planet. I just love your commitment, your dedication, and just the expansive energy that you're bringing. But I would love to hear about Love Rising Collective.
Oh, I'd love to tell you about it. It's for sure like one of my very favorite things to do in the whole world. So this collective is a monthly membership where people gather together and I do energy, like group energy healing on the phone. So we all come together from wherever people are, from all around the world, in your PJs or wherever. And we do this really beautiful group energy work where it's so funny because I was told I get a lot of direction in my life from spirit. And so I'm also a little, like, I have like a little rebellious person in me that wants to like, be like, I can't do that. I don't know. I have like an inner teenager that has a big voice as well. So I got direction to start doing this energy work in groups. At first I got like the whole download of how to do it with individuals. And I was like, okay, that's already enough for me. And then it was like, yeah, but you're going to do this then with groups. And I was like, I have no even idea how that would even work. And in my mind, I'm like trying to figure it out, right? I'm like, I'm going to process that through my mind as if my mind knew how to do that, which it didn't. And I was like, nope, not going to do it. And then finally I was just like, okay, fine, I'm just going to try. And as soon as I just like got out of the way, it was like, oh, here's the whole way of doing it. Like, you don't have to do anything. You just have to like tell people to come. So we gather together and we go on these like beautiful soul journeys together where we learn what we need to learn and we align what needs to be aligned, and we do energy work together. So we do that 2 times a month. And then after each of those, the next week we do an integration session. There are like kind of like soul coaching integration calls. And we do those because I really feel like what happens a lot for people is they get these like, you know, you go like maybe see like a tarot card reader and you're like, they tell you all these things and it's like, oh my gosh, this is like so useful. Or you like go to like, you know, like even like Tony Robbins and you're like amped up, right? But then like what happens after that is that, you know, life happens and it's so easy to fall off of the like giant peak moment into like deep despair. Or even if it's not deep despair, it's just like right back to where you were, because there isn't a system for integration. And so I feel like the integration is just as important, if not more important, than the aha that might come. And so we do that work so that we can make sure that we're actually integrating the like spiritual and energetic experiences that we're having into our lives, so that we are actually acting that way in our relationships, in our work, in our life altogether, that we are respecting that part of ourselves like we would anything else, like that it gets to really come all the way in, rather than just being subjugated to like 1 hour every other week. It has to like come all the way in, or I wouldn't be able to be as of service to people, right? Because that's really where the shift happens in our lives, is when we integrate. So that's the work that we do together. And it is so much fun. We used to just do it one time a month, like one energy call and one integration session. And then I was like, I like this so much, I think we should do it twice. Everyone was like, great. Great.
I love that. And it feels like it's like you're doing a chiropractic adjustment for the soul, right? That we like shift and get back in alignment. And I've done solo sessions with you, and I feel that it's like, it's just these like internal tiny little shifts that like move you and reset you back to the foundation of love, really, like to come from that place.
Yeah. It's so much fun. Peter always says I shouldn't say it's fun. Peter's always like, I don't know that people think of that as fun. I'm like, it is fun. I don't care.
And is there anything else we haven't covered that you'd love to share before we say goodbye?
I'm just going to share something that's been coming up for me a lot recently that I keep being like, I feel like there must be other people that need to hear it, because it just like is a consistent thing for me recently, which is just that like, especially as the world can like look so divided, and we can stop seeing each other's light and stop seeing our own light, that there's actually this like really beautiful planet that we live on that really connects us all. And the more that we can turn back to nature and really tend to the planet, I think it really helps resolve a lot of the perceived chasms between people. And so I just want to invite people, if they're feeling really disconnected, to remember that there's always this like beautiful earth mama to connect to, and that connecting into her often helps us really rise from that place and connect with one another with more groundedness and stability and nourishment and love. And in turn, then like caring for our planet so that she can continue to be a wonderful mother to us, I feel like is really work that I see as up right now in the universe for people to step into.
Oh, I love that invitation. If someone has not been connecting to nature, you know, in that more intentional way, what would be like a small actionable thing that they could do to step into that?
I think just like leaving their phone inside and going outside. Like, it really is like, just get yourself outside. Like, even if it's like, you know, to a park, great. Like in the mountains, wonderful. Like if you can only get like outside to the tree in front of your apartment building, fine. Like just, if you can even just leave your phone behind and go out with the intention of being with nature.
Yeah.
And just see what happens. Like observe the world. It's such an amazing teacher. And Mother Earth loves us so much. I just feel like if you ever feel like you're not loved, go outside. You're so loved.
Yes. I mean, even for me, I'll step outside of my office and like, I'm like chasing the sun. Like I just need to feel the warmth of the sun on my skin. And it just like reminds me of the aliveness that we all are. So thank you, Briana. I love you so much.
And I love you so much too. Thank you so much for having me.
We'll talk soon, like in text in like 5 seconds.
Sounds great. All right. Bye.
Thank you so much for your heart and attention in listening to Lead with Love. If this message, leading with love in life and business, and remembering the humans and beating hearts behind the numbers and all of that good stuff, I would love for you to take the time to leave an honest review. It would mean the world to me, and it also helps more people find out about the goodness and helping spreading more love in the world, which we really, really need. So I would really appreciate that, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.